Welcome back. The last session was Restore, Renovate, Reuse in this very special 14th edition of AKLF to celebrate 100-year plus Oxford. What is so important about heritage, and yes, we are talking heritage this evening, is that, as someone said, if you don't know where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. And heritage is something that each one of us has in our genes. What we have inherited makes up what we are. So it's really important not to destroy that, not to destroy part of ourselves. In our next session, we look at the Oxford Para, a presentation on the revival of Park Street by Monica Khosla Bhargava, followed by Barry O'Brien, author of The Anglo-Indians, a portrait of a community on Anglo-Indians, Calcutta 16, and the city. Monica Khosla Bhargava is an architect and urban designer. She founded her design practice, Calm Consultants, in 1992 and has been felicitated with several awards, both national and international. Furthermore, as president of Spark, she initiated the highly popular Park Street Christmas Festival to steer an urban revival of Kolkata's fine dining hub. Monica is also visiting faculty at IIM Calcutta and INIFT Jaipur. Barry O'Brien, we're going to introduce you again, Barry, began his work for the Anglo-Indian community at the grassroots level, was nominated to represent it in the West Bengal Legislative Assembly, 2006 to 11. Since 2001, he's been a governing body member of the All India Anglo-Indian Association, founded in 1876, its president-in-chief since 2016. His writing canvas has been wide as a sports journalist for Sports World, a social commentator, and a columnist for The Pioneer and The Telegraph, and now a pioneering author of school textbooks for leading publishers, and all this between conducting quizzes, public speaking courses, and motivational sessions in India and overseas. And of course, he is the author of The Anglo-Indians, a portrait of a community. The Oxford Para, Monica and Barry.
Hello, everyone. So I'm just the voice for today's story. The story is actually the collective effort of the entire Park Street community, of Oxford Bookstore, of the Apeejay group, of all the restaurants and the establishments on the street, and the unstinting support of the West Bengal government, Kolkata police, and the KMC. So, has my presentation started? Yeah, okay, now I can see this. So today I'm going to tell you this story. Next. Okay. Now, if this story, like in Kolkata, all good things, they start with an adda, like what we are having here. So did this one. It was 2007. A group of us, Professor Santosh Ghosh, filmmaker Supriyo Nandi, myself, architect Partharanjan Das, several others, we were sitting and discussing the unplanned way our city, Kolkata, was growing. And we thought that in this euphoria of the new, the old parts of the city, they're definitely getting into a state of decay. So we should do something. Let's gather people's support to initiate a project to rejuvenate our city. Very ambitious. So if not the city, at least a street. And as a model project, we zeroed in on Park Street, Kolkata's fine dining and entertainment street. Sound? There's no sound on this.
I think it's, the thing is on that.
Street, nights I walk down, places slow and fast.
Now why Park Street?
Feeling blue, feeling low and down, gliding down the street, nights I walk down, places slow and fast.
Now why Park Street? Firstly, Park Street is the drawing room of our city. It's where we go out, where we take our visitors, the place that every tourist to our city visits. Secondly, the eateries and the pubs, they were feeling the strain of competition from the newer malls, and we felt that they would be keen on a revival program. Thirdly, the properties on the street are larger, and we thought that it would be easier to coordinate fewer stakeholders. And lastly, the area was very well known to me because I grew up on nearby Chaurangi. A little bit about the history of the street. Park Street got its name from the deer park that included the stately house of Henry Vansittart, which is where Loretto House stands today. Before these mansions came up, this was known as the Kabristan Ka Rasta, or the burial ground road. So palanquin bearers would charge a few extra rupees to get one here, as the place had a reputation of being haunted. It had 3 burial grounds at the eastern end. Of these, the French cemetery was demolished in the 50s to build the high-rise that houses Apeejay School. The North Park Street Cemetery was pulled down to build the Assembly of God Church Hospital. Only the South Park Street Cemetery still exists, housing among others the graves of Sir William Jones, Michael Madhusudan Dutt, and Charles Dickens' son. With the development of Salt Lake and the East Side development in the 70s, Park Street was reduced to being a thoroughfare linking the East End with Chaurangi and BBD Bagh, the central business district. This posed serious problems: clogging, pollution, parking. Now, Park Street needed to be understood as the most prestigious destination, not just a transportation bypass road. 18 December 2007. We organized the Kolkata Colloquium at the Oxford Bookstore under the banner of Centre for Built Environment. More than 100 stakeholders turned up, including restaurateurs, shop owners, residents, social activists, bureaucrats, teachers, students, stakeholders, police and municipal officials. Reorientation of the traffic, utilization of the metro line, parking, restoration and sensitive reuse of the heritage structures were some of the ideas discussed. Again, ideas to enliven the street verandas, mobilize the side streets, open up the courts of the mansions to link them together were brought forward. We were looking at creating a Park Street district as the action area. Such public enthusiasm was generated for the project that in July 2008, Spark was created.
So we thought that let's do something immediate, and which is what we are doing right now. We wanted to initiate this program through a winter carnival on Park Street. The first step was just to get the people back on Park Street.
Yeah, a lot of it.
How many seas must the white
The Society for Park Street Rejuvenation, Kolkata, with the help of G.M. Kapoor of Intac, Pratap Daryanani of Oasis, Shalmali Mukherjee of The Park, Supriyo Nandi, Rajinder Singh, Sunny Puri, Pradeep Kayal, Suruchi Agarwal, Meenu Goenka, just to mention a few.
Everybody on Park Street, outside and inside. I believe in music, I could just sit around making music all day long.
However, implementing a grand urban design vision for Park Street is a long-term multi-decision task involving planning intervention at both government and non-government level. We believe that the main aim and purpose of rejuvenation was to get the people back on the street. A step we thought in this direction could be to design a festival for Park Street which would showcase to the stakeholders on the street and the governmental bodies the gains that rejuvenation brings.
Keep dreaming on. Keep dreaming on.
Park Street, being a colonial street, celebrates Christmas and New Year, and we plan for a December carnival. Permissions from the police and the Kolkata Municipal Corporation could only be obtained for January 2009. Such was the success of this endeavor that before the end of it, permissions for a December carnival were already being discussed. Many schools like Modern High School, St. Joseph's, stakeholders, citizens, they joined Spark for cleanup drives as a build-up to the December carnival. In fact, Modern High School, under then Principal Devi Kaur, became a member of Spark. We had zeroed in on Allen Park, the sole park on Park Street, as the venue for the festival. With the help of Agri-Horticulture Society and rejuvenation expert architect Elizabeth Herman of Rhode Island School of Design, we renovated Allen Park. More than 1,000 saplings were planted. The resident community joined in the venture. They monitored the laying of the pathways for morning and evening walkers, play areas for the children, the public toilet, and till date, they actively participate in the use and maintenance of the park along with KMC. It is this park that became the epicenter of community support in 2010 when the horrific fire engulfed Stephen Court. Spark held all faith and community meets here. The transformation of Allen Park from a neglected den to the throbbing heart of a vibrant neighborhood has been a major achievement of the rejuvenation drive. By 2013, the festival, which had started as a tiny spark, had become a blast. It was the most successful street and Christmas festival in the country. It moved from being a spark initiative supported by West Bengal Tourism to a government-organized festival with Spark on the committee. Now, as Park Street's popularity started renewing, many institutions like the Indian Institute of Management, JOCA, ETH Basel, Switzerland, students from Loreto, St. Xavier's, and Jadavpur University joined Spark in conducting detailed studies on the street. Results revealed that contrary to popular belief, the maximum users of the street were no longer diners, they were students. The land use pattern of the area had altered over the years because of the growth of a large number of educational institutions like St. Xavier's University, Loreto College, Apeejay School, Park English School, Harrow Hall, Jewish Girls School, and the numerous coaching centers. We needed the youth to reclaim the street for the success of this project. We started rebranding Park Street as Knowledge Street, a cultural destination. We devised heritage walks, college heritage fests, art camps, school quizzes, history hunts, and vintage rides. The aim was to inculcate both a sense of pride and a sense of place within the younger generation. Studies also brought forth that the demography of the area had changed. Communities like the Jews, Armenians, Parsis, Anglo-Indians, which once claimed the area, had long left. Kolkata, in fact, was one of the 6 centers for Jews in the world once. Building inclusiveness was the aim of the food fest that we organized, celebrating the legacy of the cuisines left behind by these communities. Besides food, music is the other pulse of Park Street. It is the birthplace of jazz in India and the launchpad of many maestros like Louis Banks and Usha Uttar, involving both young singers and the senior masters in a bilingual street anthem, succeeded in bridging language and generation divides. Meanwhile, Park Street started feeling the benefits. Heritage buildings like Park Mansions were restored to their stately elegance. High street brands like Apple and Starbucks started making their appearance here. reinstating that the street was claiming its place in the city and amongst the youth. The much neglected South Park Street Cemetery also invited us to give an outline proposal for a small open-air theatre to host a light and sound show inside the burial ground. This was never built, luckily, as the place has a reputation for being one of the city's most haunted spots. The audience may well have had to be shifted to the many hospitals around. But what did happen was the restoration of the tombs, the pathways, and the inscriptions. Also, our efforts to rebrand the street as Knowledge Street seemed fulfilled as Park Street became the stage for the Kolkata Apeejay Literary Festival in 2019 with Spark as a partner.
So today when I walked down Park Street, vibrant, lively, and reached the Apeejay Kolkata Literary Festival being held here on Park Street, and you saw the visuals of the building which was being restored and which has been documented. So I feel that almost all the objectives that we set out to have been achieved. We succeeded in bringing back fun back on Park Street, life back on Park Street, the youth back on Park Street, and most importantly, knowledge at the center stage of Park Street. So next. So I think we should just thank Kolkata for making this happen and keep dreaming on. I just made a statement earlier to some younger people saying that this was one initiative, and if the youth and the people come together, we can do this with every single area of the city. Thank you.
I'm usually not in a hurry, but I am, because I've got to finish off everything that I've come prepared with. I just want to tell Monica, I don't know whether she knows this, but this whole idea started with me when I was the MLA, and I did a lot of running around. We had a couple of meetings and trinkers, etc. The reason I'm saying it is I couldn't make it happen. She and the others made it happen. So I think they deserve a round of applause. It's okay coming up with an idea, but what's the use of an idea if you can't make it happen? So that was wonderful that it's happened. I didn't know all those facts, but I think it's wonderful that you're right. For the first time I've realized that what I've written in my book, in fact, is to do with Park Street being the music capital and people dining, etc. But it's now not a place where you just come to, to have a drink or have a meal or to listen to music. It's a place where young people come for various reasons. And what I'm happy to tell you, I've got my finger on the pulse of the city. I have hardly ever heard of an incident when there are thousands and hundreds of people on Park Street. So 3 cheers for Park Street and for Calcutta. Friends, I am here primarily to speak about the contribution of the Anglo-Indian community to Park Street, or rather Calcutta 16. I have a problem with the name. I don't know how many of you agree with me. I thought Calcutta was always Kolkata. Bangla jokhon amra kotha boltam, boli, we never used to say, Ami Calcutta jacchi. No, Ami Kolkata jacchi. And whenever you speak English, it was always Calcutta. So I'm all for no name changes, but anyway, let's... are you going to do it, or will I? So we are going to be talking about I love the name Oxford Para. And the Oxford Para, I will just share with you how I will link it to a book that I feel very special for the first time in my life, I think. Really special, because I think this has been a labor of love. It's 600 pages. Don't get put off by it, because I've written it in fairly colloquial, readable style. Because I'm not an academic myself, so I don't know how to approach it any other way. It's called The Anglo-Indians, A Portrait of a Community. Well, first I'm going to pay a tribute with one slide to a friend of mine, a friend of many people's. Could we go on to this gentleman here? Because he actually wrote a song where it's Kolkata Sholo, and Kolkata, you know, he speaks about Calcutta 16 and he refers to many things. If you haven't heard the song, I think Anjan himself will agree that it's not his best song, but it's a very good song. The lyrics are very good, and you should hear it. So this is in some way a tribute to him, because I think he personifies, stands for everything that Calcutta 16 stands for. He's not here. Let's give him a round of applause, because people like him keep the spirit going, yeah? Well, Park Street in the let's go to the next slide, please. 1930s and 40s. This is exactly where we were, where we are, right? So this is how Park Street looked. If you look over there, there's no pant jama. There's no jama pant. It's only dhuti, and there are hardly any people there, of course. I just want to take you through these so that you, and before I give you some perspective from my book. We go this side. Yes, brother, that slide. This side is Oxford. Before that, there was Trinkers, and before that means first Trinkers, then Oxford, then come down, where we've spoken enough about Oxford earlier today. Moulin Rouge, fortunately brought to fame again by Rekha and the song, which he didn't shoot over there, but everybody thought it was. Ollie Pub, goodness knows how many years ago I last went to Ollie Pub. I can't remember, because I can't remember going. I remember going in, I don't remember coming out. But a wonderful place, still going strong. Then on the other side, if you go to the next slide, I'm sharing quickly memories with you. Flurries. I'm not giving a prize because this book is rather expensive. I wish I could. Anyone knows the connection between Flurries and Trinkers? Anyone? Yes, you do? Okay, those who know besides them. Okay, right, anybody? Okay, right, I hope you've got it right. Basically, I think many of you don't know, there are a few oldies. Oldies means oldies as in not in age, but in Calcutta. Actually, these are Swiss people. Fleury and Trinka. Flurries and Trinkers, they were pals, Mr. And the Mrs. were also pals. One of them, I don't know which way it went. Mr. Trinkers ran away with Mrs. Flurries, or Mr. Flurry, is that right? Mr. Trinkers took the initiative and ran away with Mr. Flurries. Not Mr. Flurries, sorry, Mrs. Flurries. Mrs. Flurry, and thank goodness they left their legacy over here. So there are many interesting, nice stories about, I'll give you a story about Mags. You know, it was never referred to as magnolias, Mags. And my father and mother, back in the 1950s, my dad was, for two reasons he couldn't spend money. One is he didn't have one. He had huge pockets, with both had handkerchiefs in it. I've written all about it in the book. Huge handkerchiefs, because he had a stuffy nose problem, and he didn't have any money. So they would watch a movie every Saturday, and my father would make my mother walk right down Free School Street, which should have taken 10, 12 minutes. It would take an hour and a bit, because he would, you know, sort of lounge around at every record store, etc. My mother had come from up country. She didn't know what the big deal was, looking at old records. I mean, who's going to buy old records? And then they would come to Mags, where for 10 rupees, they would have a buffet, or they would have a dinner. I don't know what they would have. For 5 rupees each, for 10 rupees. And then my father would be broke, and he'd walk her home to Circus Avenue, and then keep, I think, a few paisa to find his way to Baliganj on the tram. The reason I'm sharing all this with you is, this is the nostalgia which is there in my book. And it is very Calcutta 16, yeah? And it's told through my eyes of the stories I've heard and the experiences I may have had myself. So that is Free School Street. Mocambo's. I mean, there's no music now, but Mr. Menezes, not Anto Menezes, his brother, Mr. Menezes, of St. James School? Morris Menezes, of course. Mr. Morris Menezes, thank you, Sumit and Natalie. Mr. Morris Menezes, a great musician, was vice principal of St. James for a long time. The stories he told me about Mocambo's, unfortunately, he said, I've got to tell you the real big ones. But unfortunately, and I kept postponing the date, and unfortunately he decided that he was going to take it along with him, and I don't know all the stories, but I do know that people like Pam Crane actually started in Mocambo's, and many others started in Mocambo's, fantastic musicians. So we go down Free School Street. I'll finish my slides before I come to the book, where we'll read, with your permission. I will read a bit, and we'll try and match the slides, but don't worry too much about the slides. I'm going to be sharing with you how Anglo-Indians lived in the triangle. Picture the triangle from Bow Street, Bow Barracks and a little beyond, going that way right through Intally, and the other end would be Park Circus. So that's one thing, and then from Park Circus to Park Street and back through central Calcutta to Bow Barracks. So that's, I've called it in my book a triangle. So I'm going to quickly, I'm doing well for time because my wife is not making big eyes at me. You'll find a lot of Anglo-Indian isms in my book, like not my wife not making big eyes, and she wears the pants and all those things. There are lots of Anglo-Indian isms in my book which you may like. But here's the first extract that I'm going to read about Calcutta and its connection with the community and Calcutta 16, or rather this triangle. Yeah, you don't worry about that now. You can, I know it's difficult to look at me, but you can look at me. There was a time when a triangular chunk of... You want to put it on that? Or is this fine? I think it's fine. There was a time when a triangular chunk of Calcutta between Beau Bazaar at the apex and Park Circus and Park Street at different ends housed more Anglo-Indians than any other specific area in the country. Even more than the biggest settlement of them all, McCluskey-Ganj. There were more Anglo-Indians in this triangle, which is a couple of kilometers, than there was in acres and acres of land in McCluskey-Ganj. The highly urbanized area in central Calcutta, which is way smaller than the Ganj, was home to several thousands of Anglo-Indian families. They say you couldn't throw a stone on any of those streets without hitting an AI. The triangle included major hubs like Dharamtala, Wellesley, Ripon Street, Elliott Road, Royd Street, Lower Circular Road, Entally, Park Circus, and whatever came in between. Everything an Anglo-Indian needed and considered sacred or important was a walk, a rickety rickshaw, or a bone shaker tram ride away. And what did the Anglo-Indian need? Church, school, work, food, old friends, new movies, old magazines and records on Free School Street, new shoes on Bentinck Street, and old and new music on Park Street. Anglo-Indians also came in hordes from Kharagpur. I'm going to say it the Anglo-Indian way, okay? Kharagpur, Asansol, Jamshedpur, CKP, Patna, not Patna, Patna, now it's become Patna for us even, and even far away, Allahabad or Allahabad. Since no Christmas was complete and no wedding celebration classic enough without a visit to the Taj Mahal for Anglo-Indian shoppers, the New Market. All of the above held true till the 1970s, and it goes on. I'm going to skip a bit and come to Bow Barracks because, and I'll show you there's a slide. Is there a slide on the Bow Barracks? Otherwise it doesn't matter. Yeah, there is. Good. The only specific, basically Anglo-Indians moved out of central Calcutta, moved to Behala, moved to Thakurpukur. Now where do they live mostly? Anyone knows? Picnic Gardens, the new Ripon Street for the community. But I'm just going to read a bit about the Bow Barracks. The only other specific area in the city that is associated with the community is Bow Barracks. Built originally as a garrison's mess for soldiers during World War I, the government invited 132 Anglo-Indian families to occupy the apartments on both sides of the narrow street between Beau Bazaar Police Station and Hare Street. Bordered by 6 blocks of 3-storied buildings that have always been brick red with green windows, it's a locality like no other. Though a number of the current residents do not belong to the community, since many have immigrated, you can still feel a strong Anglo-Indian presence centering around a beautiful grotto at which residents say the rosary every day. And if you're ever in Kolkata in December, make it a point to spend a couple of evenings at the barracks. Not even Santa Claus can make you feel more Christmassy. Everything happens right there on the street. Carols, live music, dancing, wishing, eating. I once spotted a popular Bengali actress with her guests from overseas taking wine glasses out of a bag and letting the spirit as well as the spirits flow. The other standout attribute of Bow Barracks is the high quality of hockey and football that is seen in the tournaments that are played once again right there on the street. You can watch from a box seat on one of the balconies with uncle, auntie, granddad or nana while munching on barker khanis and bandel cheese or the best beef patties in the world. So that is the base of the community here in Calcutta. It wouldn't have been possible if this proximity to everything was not there. I'll now move on to reading a bit from 345. Yeah. 403, about the new market. I think, how many of you are very sentimental about the new market? Very sentimental, yeah. I mean, anybody above 40 or 45, if you're not sentimental about the new market, then you're not sentimental about Calcutta. Christmas in Cal is the name of this, is the title of this little segment. I grew up in 1970s in Calcutta. I'm skipping a bit of something, yeah. Even people who immigrated donkeys years ago still say nothing can beat a Calcutta Christmas. Not even a white Christmas in first world snow. Strange that, since nothing in a Cal Christmas is real. Not the lifeless Christmas trees, not the holly or the snow you buy from the center of the new market. Everything is like much of the news today, fake. But how does that matter when the thing that matters most is real and not one bit fake? The spirit of Christmas. Christmas for me meant midnight mass, see the triangle again, right? Midnight mass at Christ the King Parish in Park Circus, where my parents and us three naughty boys in our brand new, most appropriately named naughty boy shoes from Bata's, which we would use right through the year, occupied the entire row dressed exactly alike. Rumor has it that my mother got a discount for buying so much of the same material from a favorite shop in Newmarket. Now that I think of it, one Christmas an obnoxiously rude aunt commented that our shirts looked suspiciously similar to the new curtains in our home. Our annual visit to the Newmarket, where my mother and every Anglo-Indian mother went a couple of times every month, buying decorations from the temporary shops in the center of the market, a yummy, oily lunch offset by the best tutti frutti in the world at the warmest, most middle-class restaurant in the world, Carco's. We Anglo-Indians could anglicize anything. Only a few years ago, I got to know what's Carco's. It's Core and Company. And we fooled everybody who called it Carco's. I think Carco's, Mr. Kaur and his brother, they used to sing, and lovely guys. Even they started calling it Carco's, but actually it was originally Kaur and Company. Like we made Nizams into Nizams. And Rahman stores, where you got all the chaddis and the paddis and whatever, ramens. And people would wonder what we're talking about. I went to ramens, after that I had rolls and nizams, and then after that I just had a tutti frutti in Carco's. So we have this way of, sort of making everything our own. That was the new market, just a little bit. And this is my favorite part of the book, which is such an insignificant couple of paragraphs, but I think it's really important. But my lasting Christmas memory is something very different. Maybe because it's a very Calcutta memory, a very Anglo-Indian memory. Somehow for me, the two mean the same thing. I share it with you as I feel the prose will tell you something about my community. That for most of us, small is big, and who you are matters more than who you are perceived to be. My lasting Christmas memory, I beg your pardon, as a child, one of the people I admired and was fascinated by was my mother's favorite coolie at the New Market, with whom I bonded strongly through the year. but more so during the Christmas season, since my mother's visits at that time of the year were as numerous as the bubbles on our Christmas tree at home. The Mem Saab Coolie Bond was like no other. Dressed in a lungi and a bush shirt, unless some Mem Saab had gifted him a t-shirt that had become too tight for her beer-drinking Saab. They would scamper after their Mem Saabs in and out of shops, silent or smiling, never grumbling, except at the time of the salam greeting at the entrance. There was no eye contact. They wouldn't make any out of respect and reverence, and there was no need for it. Their eyes were focused on Mem Saab's shoes and the color of her dress, a scarf and the sunglasses resting above her forehead. Anything that would help him spot her in a crowd. He waited for hours outside a shop if his Mem Saab was a bit of a khatia when it came to shades, colors and designs, especially if she wanted a dress piece exactly like the one that lady from England was wearing at the May Queen Ball. But what was most extraordinary about this incredible bond was that it was one of complete trust and understanding. Having tailed and waited and tailed her for all of 4 hours, he would end up carrying in his jhuri a dress piece for the Mem Saab, t-shirts for the Babas, a frock for Missy Baba, a nice formal shirt for Saab, some bed linen, jarans, tea cozies, and altar cloth, which we call for some reason oilter cloth. I don't know why, but it's altar cloth for the house, plus some guava cheese and bandel cheese, barley sugar, and nankatais. The latest Pat Boone LP, and goodness knows what else, all well worth over 500 rupees. At the end of the marathon session of weekly retail therapy, she would end up paying him $10. And in return, he would give her a big salam, as if she had just handed him the winning jackpot ticket at the Calcutta race course. Never once did she have to keep an eye on him, and never once since the market was built in memory of Sir Stuart Hogg almost 150 years ago did you hear of a coolie charling off with his Mem Saab stuff. He was a coolie like no other, in a city like no other. I could go on, but Oindrila, OD has walked up. That means my time is up, and there's no OD over here. There's no overdraft thing. I will just end with a very short paragraph, OD, if you'll believe me, and it's to do with Park Street and the music. How can I not go for that? So, page 120, just to tell you what Anjan Datta said when all he felt Anglo-Indians had left Park Street feeling really down. Anjan Datta, who grew up in central Calcutta and who has echoed the sentiment in lyric and screenplay about Anglo-Indians leaving, looks at it through his showbiz lens. He says, we did an informal survey, actually he and Nandon had done the survey, and counted around 600 entertainers on Park Street who had left. He's talking about the 60s and 70s. Singers, dancers and musicians, the whole lot of them left. And with them, their culture also left. And I promise you this is the last paragraph, and it is to do with Park Street and music. It is to do with Usha and Pam, and how they were so different, and how they, you know, the Anglo-Indian woman was branded meaning written about, all of them smoke, all of them drink, and all of them wear these tight dresses, etc. Into that scenario, check out these two ladies, page 353 and 354, that's where it is. Usha, Ushadi, and Pam, may her musical soul rest in peace. One of the country's finest bass guitarists, Lou Hilt, originally of Calcutta and now of Gurugram, sums up the integration that happened on Park Street, widely regarded as the nightlife capital of the country. He says, initially, this is extremely important, initially the performers as well as the clientele were largely Anglo-Indians and those who connected with the community. But through the 1970s, this opened up big time as people of all communities wanted to listen to Western music or just dance the night away. It was such a seamless and smooth change of keys far out. In perfect harmony with Lou is his friend, legendary drummer Nandan Bakshi. Right through my school days at La Martini and later my best days on Park Street, I witnessed and experienced an incredible coming together. It was as much an Anglo-Indianization that was taking place of non-Anglo-Indians like me as a gentle Indianization of this extraordinary community. Nandan had hit the nail on the head, while Pam Crane kept pulling the crowd into Mocambos and later Blue Fox. In the early 70s, from the early 70s, Usha Iyer, later Uthup, had quietly slipped into the other hot spot, the one at the top of the road, Trinkers. While Pam was all Anglo-Indian in appearance, European actually, dress and music, Usha, this diminutive girl from a Tamil family, was all Indian in appearance and dress, but Anglo-Indian in her vocal style, genre of music and diction. There was no clash, no choice to be made between Pam in her perfectly cut, tight-fitting gown and Usha in her South Indian silk sari topped with a big bindi. They were both legends of their time. One who symbolized the first half of this incredible transition, and the other, though not Anglo-Indian herself, who symbolized the second. Together, they symbolized the dignified fight against stereotyping by a large section of society that was so typical of the times. Thank you very much for listening so patiently. I think I've got it across to you that the book is quite readable. If Oindrila permits, I will go down. Anybody who can answer this question, I'm going to give you a copy of this book. It costs $1,000 bucks.
One.
Yeah? Only one.
You owe me one.
Oh, I owe you? No, for that question you can't get. Odi says you owe me one. Mr. Flurries and Mr. Thing. She'll get a drink or a dinner. Just show me, brother. Just go down, if we can. Are you there? Somebody there? Can you just page down? I want to thank once again Odi for just introducing all of us, doing a wonderful job as usual. Mrs. Bhagat, who's not here, but I'm sure she's with us in spirit. And this wonderful lady whose hair and her sari match beautifully, Anjum. Thank you all the volunteers and everybody else. And thank you for asking me again and again, 3 times today. And if you ask me another 3 times, I would gladly come. Thank you all very much.
The question, that's Lapi.
No, next one, the question. Next. Yeah. I'll tell you when to stop. Just look at that one. Go back. Look at that. It was supposed to be shown while I was speaking. A young Usha and a young Pam Crane of the 50s. And Usha of the 60s. Then we go on, let's see. Then they go down, brother. Then you know this version of them. And then we go down. Now, hold on. If anybody can whisper in my ear,
Yeah.
all the names without a single mistake. Can you hear me?
Bras.
Wait, no, 1 minute. Except Odi and
What is this?
1 minute. Odi, you're last. You're part of the organizing team. Anybody who can name all in my ear, you get a copy of the book. 1 minute, no, in my ear, because others may know it also. No, if you don't know all, no. Only all. Okay, how many do you know?
Come on, guys.
How many do you know? You know all? How can you know all?
No, Anjum da here. Yeah.
Okay, it's not good enough for the book. Okay, Sumit, go for it. One guy that I don't know. Let's try. Okay, Sumit loud because nobody's trying.
Okay, Louis Banks, Do Hilt, Braz Gonzalez, Nandan Bakshi, Anton Menezes, Carlton Quito, and the drummer I don't know.
Anybody? My book is saved, but give them a hand, they've almost got it. That is, they call him the Peter Pan of Clive Hughes.
Oh,
Used to
okay.
play with etc.
But I get 900 pages.
You get, not 900, you get 560 pages. Yeah? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give them, I have the greatest of respect for the Lai Roy family, what they bring to Calcutta, what they bring to theatre, and what they bring to the culture and life of the city. So I'm going to ask Sumit to please come and accept the book.
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, Monica. I have to tell you that I was part of the first organizing committee for that Park Street Festival. And Barry, I could hear you go on and on. That is fascinating. Just a couple of things that one could add, of course. Usha Uthup considers herself the biggest Anglo-Indian ever, so don't ever tell her otherwise. And Pam Crane always said, you know, she also ran Madam Butterfly. That was a tailoring outfit. And she said, I'm the one and only platinum blonde. Never mind if people say it's come out of a bottle. And there was, of course, Carlton Keto, the amazing Carlton Keto, who people like Ellington talked about and wanted to play with.
By the way, both Katie and I consider ourselves Anglo-Indian.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And could we have the Uttariyas for them, please, on stage? Barry's got one. He's not getting another one. Right. And Barry, don't go away. Well done. I had that nasty. Thanks so much, Monica. Come, the Uttar